Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize. It's time for Mambo number 6. The customer service in the pub has the air of a war crime trial. When I inquire whether there was any free tables, the waitress asks me if I'm blind. The bartender stops just short of throwing the beer at me. I sit as far away from him as I can, but even from across the room his eyes watch me with utter contempt. I feel far from welcome, but the beer is delicious and the food prices aren't as bad as the city center. It's a hot day, but it's cool underground, much like all the other drinking establishments in Prague. The pub is beneath street level. Vintage beer advertisements from the 50s hang from the centuries-old stones, and on the far side of the bar, next to a foosball machine, sits a beat-up jukebox. The lights flash on and off as if inviting me to check what's inside. I order the fried cheese and another beer. The waitress audibly sighs when I choose French fries as my side, but my request for another beer is taken in better spirits. The food arrives 20 minutes later, and I don't regret my order. There's something heavenly in the combination of Pilsner, cheap cheese, and potatoes. As my mind grows sluggish with the approaching food coma, my eyes drift back to the jukebox. The lights flash from the edges of the machine to its center. The jukebox beckons, and I consider its mystery. The jukebox is digital, but still a relic. Islands of dead pixels stretch across the smudged screen. In the music section, it's provided in garish green text on a puke-yellow background. The lights of the jukebox start to flicker faster. The mystery of its contents is far too alluring to be left alone. Before I get up, however, a bespectacled man with a ponytail walks over to the machine. His large flannel frame blocks out the screen and obscures his music choices, but doesn't stay a mystery for too long. The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. He struts over to his group of friends, keeping in beat with the guitar. They greet him with smiles and shot glasses of bright green liquid. They take their medicine and grimace and laugh. Yet before the song finishes, the group descends into quiet conversation. I wait for the song to finish so that I can explore the jukebox myself, yet it doesn't. Just as the song starts to fade out, the boys return to town once more. The encore of the song visibly irritates both the man with the ponytail and his friends. Before the second chorus is reached, the boys square up their bill and head upstairs. I feel like I'm about to burst, but I still chase the few chunks of once molten cheese around my plate and follow them up with more beer. As I chew, my eyes can't help but to wander towards the jukebox. The lights flash to the rhythm of the guitar solo and grow progressively brighter. Then, with the last few reminders that the boys are, in fact, in town, the music starts to fade, and so do the lights. Before I have the chance to get up and see what treasure troves this Central European music box might hold, however, the guitar kicks in again. The boys are back in town, in case you weren't paying attention the first few times. I wonder, and I worry, whether the song was ordered 3 times for good measure, or whether the pub will forever be stuck in an endless loop of discussing the comings and goings of the titular boys. Before I manage to get too deep into my thoughts, however, the gruff bartender approaches my table. He lets loose a torrent of sharp consonants that sound like a threat. I apologize and tell him I only speak English. With a growl, he grabs my menu, opens it up, and presses his thumb against it as if he were squashing a bug. "Happy hour," he grunts, pointing to a section in the menu. "Absinthe, 50 krona." Happy hour seems to be scheduled for 15 minutes after 90-minute intervals, starting at 6 p.m. I see no mention of absinthe, but the longer I look at the paper, the more irritated the bartender becomes. He waves around a labelless bottle of bright green liquid and watches me with a stare that only would reserve for a man refusing a parachute in the midst of a plane crash. 50 nones is just about $2, and the green liquid looks exotic enough. I nod, and the bartender wastes no pleasantries, pouring me a shot. For the price, I expect a thimble. The shot glass the bartender produces is bigger than anything I would get back home. When I remark on this, he hisses something in Czech, and then retreats back to the bar from whence he stared at me, as if I'd done irreparable harm to his family. The glass smells of harmless mint, but I've read enough about absinthe to know the drink isn't harmless. The jukebox blasting Thin Lizzy implores me to let loose, yet the thought of passing out on the street of a foreign continent gives me pause. I find myself stuck in an endless cycle of smelling the shot glass and putting it back on the table. From across the bar, the jukebox goes dark and lights up again. The boys are back in town. It's not absinthe, don't worry. A voice comes from the table next to me. For the first time since I arrived in Prague, I see a smile. It's Selena, she says. Literally means green, in Czech. Cheap peppermint schnapps. We tell tourists it's absinthe, so they believe they're good at drinking. She has her own shot glass filled with a similar hue of liquor. She teaches me how to say cheers in Czech, and on my third attempt, she finds my pronunciation acceptable. The drink tastes like Listerine, cut with cheap vodka. The face I make after downing it makes her laugh. Her name is Maya. She's a local and a tour guide to boot. She's in the pub for the same reason I am, fried food and Pilsner. They have the best cheese in town here, she says. Loads of nicer restaurants have cheese on the menu, but they use good cheese. You don't want to fry good cheese. Sounds weird. You want the cheapest of the cheap. Eat 'em. That's what the secret is. Cheap food should be made with cheap ingredients. Just as she finishes her thought, Thin Lizzy fades off on the jukebox. When the boys make their fourth, triumphant return, I'm about to comment on it. Yet before I get a word out, Maya raps her knuckles on the table and gets up. She saunters over to the jukebox, delivers an elegant kick to its side, and the music stops. By the time Maya returns to the table, the jukebox is belting out a different song. Immediately I recognize the twangy bass line of Nancy Sinatra's "These Boots Are Made for Walkin'," but the lyrics are foreign and harsher. What is that? I asked. What's Against Love? Ivan Pernosilva, 1966, Maya says, tapping her sneakers against the table in rhythm. We were behind the Iron Curtain for a good 40 years, but in the 60s there was a brief moment of liberalization where music from the West came in. Prague Spring, we call it. Then, in 68, our comrades to the East sent 500,000 troops and a couple thousand tanks to change our mind. They called it a mission of brotherly assurance. Special military operation in modern parlance, if you will. The waitress comes by our table. I ordered another beer, and Maya orders the fried cheese. She chooses the baked potatoes over French fries. Yet the waitress still attends us as if we were convicted of crimes against humanity. Once the oppressive air of the Czech service industry leaves our table, I focus in on the strange, gruff, consonant-filled version of Nancy Sinatra's hit. Are the lyrics the same as the original? I ask. He tells me he has something for me again, and that something is apparently love. I don't want any love in my home, though, no. All it brings is sadness and strife. I have these boots against love, and they protect their miss. One of these days, these boots are going to stomp all to bits. Different message, I say. Is it? She asks. I guess we're just less romantic. The waitress comes back with 2 beers, and after about 15 minutes, she returns with Maya's fried cheese. All the while, Boots Against Love keep repeating on the jukebox over and over again. By then, however, the music isn't a bother. It's simply background ambience to a fascinating history lesson. With the gusto of a well-paid lecturer, Maya tells me about the Iron Curtain and how the underground music scene behind it operated. She tells me about Bone LPs and the Plastic People of the Universe and how the Scorpions took Moscow by storm. The pub itself isn't without history either. In the 15th century, it used to serve as a grain storage, and after the 1968 invasion and the 69 riots, it was used for practice by all sorts of underground bands. It wasn't until 2001 that some enterprising Italian bought the building and established a traditional Czech pub. From across the bar, as Maya takes breaks from talking to chew her food, the jukebox still beckons. Even as a smoky version of Nancy Sinatra's song about stomping on hearts, I can see the jukebox beckoning me closer. The machine's flickering bulbs challenge me to see what other rare tracks I can find in its catalog. The jukebox's lights aren't any match for Maya, though. She quickly gains my full attention. It's hands down the most historical bathroom I've ever been in, but it smells like any dive back home. From the ancient stone walls hangs even more vintage beer advertisements, and at the bottom of each urinal there sits a plastic toy turtle. "Do not steal the turtles," reads a sign, solely written in English. For a moment I wonder whether we exist in a godless universe, but then my mind wanders once more. In the ancient stone, not too far from the sign, there's a scratched-out message. At first I feel as if I had stumbled upon a message centuries old, but on a closer inspection, I realize the message is no older than 1999. Scratched deep into the stone by key or nail, it reads, Mambo number 6. When I got back, I offered to pay for both Maya's dinner and the 2 fresh beers on the table. She doesn't stop me. In thanks, she pulls out a YouTube video of another cover, a rendition of Jay-Z's New York, where the Big Apple is replaced by Ostrava, a city which, according to Maya, was known as the Iron Heart of the Republic before the Revolution. Then she pulls up another video. This time, it's a cover of The House of the Rising Sun by communism's answer to Frank Sinatra, Karl Gott. The operatic notes are far too much for me, but Maya starts listing through plenty of other covers while talking about how Western music would seep into Czechoslovakia during the Cold War. Any cool covers of more recent stuff? I asked. There was a lot of rap that would lift beats wholesale back in the early 2000s, she says, typing something into the search bar. What about 90s music? Maya's brow furrowed in thought. From the other side of the pub, Yvonne orders her anti-love boots to march, and the trumpets kick in again. The words leave my mouth with little thought. Something like Mambo number 6, maybe. The trumpets fade off at the jukebox. I expect them to return, but they do not. The music fades, and all we're left with is the drunken chatter around us and the clinking of glasses. What? Mambo number 5, I said, trying to pull the melody from the ether. The shot of green in my stomach catches up with me and bars my memory. There's a song called Mambo number 5 in the 90s. Thought a Czech version of the song could be like, I don't know, Mambo number... No, there's a song like that. All the excitement had been drained from Maya's face. I'm no longer an audience to be entertained, I'm just some guy in a bar. She picks up her phone and tells me that she might have to go help out on a tour that's starting in 15 minutes. With 3 swift gulps, she empties most of her beer and leaves, but a couple of sips. I know she'll be gone if I don't say something. The video killed the radio star? The side of her mouth twitched. Without a word, Maya gets up and jogs over to the jukebox. The machine's lights flicker without purpose, but once she touches it, they calm. Soon enough, they shine to the rhythm of a familiar piano. So I invite you home, but first I have to say, I have just 4 walls, and there's nothing in the way. Not even television, really. I don't have anything. So we all left. Oh, is to stare into the darkness. Oh. We call it, the radio can play us songs in the dark. Different message, I guess, she says. The opportunity for another historical factoid warms Maya up, but before our conversation has a chance to resume, a human storm cloud descends on our table. Happy hour, the bartender barks, waving around the labelless bottle and shot glass. Absinthe. To the utter irritation of the man, Maya looks down at her phone. She rattles off a message and then clicks it shut. I hope you can manage without me, she tells me. My treat, I said. I assumed it was, she replied. The air is cleared of any memory of Mambo number 5 and is replaced with an ever-repeating rendition of The Radio Can Play Us Songs in the Dark. We drink and talk and mingle with the other guests of the bar. My lonesome dinner quickly turns into a night of shots and foosball and cultural exchange. On the back of the alcohol and good company, I forgot all my earthly worries and lose all track of time. It's not until I'm back in the bathroom that I think back to the one-hit wonder, Mambo number 6. The scratched-out message taunts me as I piss in the plastic turtle in the urinal. Based on Maya's irrational reaction to the mentioning of the song, I promise myself I won't ask about it again. I'm confident I'll be able to avoid the topic, but the confidence stems solely from the blood alcohol content. 5 minutes after I return to the table, I can't help but to ask about Mambo number 6. She doesn't take kindly to the second mention of the song when I tell her that the title is scratched out in the men's bathroom. Then her face softens. Yeah, she says. There's a song called Mambo number 6 in 2001. I just don't like talking about it. Why not? I ask. She sighs and gets up. I need a cigarette, Maya finally says. Can I come? I have no illusions about my sobriety, but it isn't until the night air reaches my lungs that I realize I've completely lost track of how much I drank. I start to consider retreating back to my hotel and calling it a night, but Maya's cigarette smoke lures me into more decadence. Even though I don't smoke, I ask Maya for a cigarette. Without a word, she gives me one. I really love talking about our history, music especially, you might have noticed, she said, breaking the silence. But talking about that song, I don't like the history behind it. It scares me. There were streetlights around us. They scarcely reached out into the darkness. In an island of light not far from us stood 3 burly men smoking. They don't speak. Even Maya holds her silence in the quiet night. She holds my gaze for almost half of her cigarette, but finally, with a sigh, she tells me the story that I've been starving for. There used to be a Slovakian musician. Lucas Benga, they called him. Not famous before the wall fell, and not famous after. Not a particularly good musician, by all accounts, but he used to practice down there. She pointed her cigarette at the pub at our feet. Past the window, I catch the hateful eyes of the waitress. She looks as if she's about to spit at the floor in disgust, but instead she just frowns at me and goes back to carrying beers. He used to practice down there, and it's because of him the place got turned into a pub. Benga had a cover band. Papagaj, or Parrot in English. Not a very good band. Parrot broke up around 2000, and the man had not been seen for a long time. In 2001, however, he would return to this place to record his magnum opus. That was the last time he was ever heard from or seen again. Mambo number 6. She nods. He hired 10 trumpet players, no drums, no vocals. No one but him and the 10 trumpets. He started playing around midnight. By 1 o'clock, they said the street was filled with police cars and ambulances. 3 of the trumpet players died on the spot of heart attacks. The other 7 survived, but barely. Benga was never found. But the song got recorded? She nodded. Did you ever hear it? Maya takes a long puff of her cigarette and looks up towards the dark skies, as if searching for an answer. No, she finally says. I researched the lyrics for a university paper once, though. That was enough. The song's cursed. What's the song about? Maya shook her head as if she was trying to get rid of the thoughts altogether. No, she says. I don't want to talk about it. Bad things happen when that song's played. You asked your questions and I answered them. Can we please leave it be? Of course, I say. As soon as those words leave my lips, however, my drunken brain returns a long-lost query. The long-lost tune of Mambo number 5 fills my ears, and it takes all my effort to not hum it. For a moment I fear that the liquors rob me of even that shred of self-control, but before I ruin the moment, Maya speaks again. Where are you from again? She asks, putting out her cigarette in the back of her shoe. America, I said, stubbing out mine. I knew that, but where in America? I've moved around a lot, but I live in Virginia Beach right now. Country roads. I think to tell her that the distance between where I lived and the topic of John Denver's song is about the length of her entire country, but I don't. I just nod and follow her downstairs into the pub. Happy hour! The bartender shouts threateningly the moment we cross his sight. Absinthe! He doesn't ask. He just pours. Maya doesn't resist the shot, neither do I. The melody of Mambo number 5 in my head is drowned out by any semblance of internal monologue, and I find my steps lacking coordination, but I don't resist. I fear the bartender might hit me if I do, and I fear disappointing Maya even more. I'd wager that it was hands down the most popular cover we had, she says once the glass of green is empty. It's called Lead Me On, Road of Mine. No mention of West Virginia, naturally. Understandable, I said, feeling the liquor settle in my stomach. From all the Bolshevik-era songs, though, I find it the most fascinating. It's a strange pick to cover, granted the circumstances. Really wonder what was going through the head of the bureaucrat who approved the lyrics. What are the lyrics? I asked, trying not to think of Mambo number 5. She smiles and grabs my hand and leads me to the jukebox. The pub is nearly empty. There's only a few stragglers left sorting out their bill with the perpetually angry staff. I know that if I play my cards right, I might end up going home with Maya, yet my mind's far too full of trumpets to think straight. The machine didn't look to be in good shape from across the bar, but being close to it cements its status in the relic of history. The plastic of the machine is so scratched, barely any of its original paint remains. Beneath the dashboard, like stalactites in some primordial cavern, sit chunks of long-chewed gum, the color of picked bone. Even the lights in the machine seemed so alluring from a distance, flicker with terminal sluggishness. Without letting go of my hand, Maya presses a 20-crown coin into the machine and taps out the first couple of letterings of the song. Album art is a smiling man lying on the grass in a dress shirt. Corduroy pants and loafers flash up on the screen. The jukebox tries to remind me of my home far away, but my heart is elsewhere. Lead me on, road of mine. Lead me on, even I. Where you end, that's where I want to be. Lead me on, road of mine. I smile at Maya's translation, but I'm barely cognizant of it. My soul is seized with liquor and Mambo. Want to sit? She asked, nudging me back towards our table. The jukebox shines in rhythm to the foreign John Denver knockoff, but another song plays in my heart. Mind if I check what else is on the jukebox? I've been eyeing it all night. Oh, sure. I'll just pop in the bathroom. She lets go of my hand. Somewhere deep inside, I'm certain that it's the last time she'll ever hold it. It's not until my fingers hover over the dashboard that I realize I can't see straight. For an instant, I consider abandoning my search and going back to the table, or better yet, retreating back to my hotel room to get a proper night's sleep and plenty of water. Even as the thought slurs across my mind, I know I can't resist. I know there's only one way to get rid of the trumpets in my ears. I press M, and then A, and then M again, and then B. I have to squint my eyes to see the results. There's 2 songs listed, Mambo number 5, and something far more interesting. I fish out a handful of change and squint at my palm. I almost put the 20 in, and then I remembered Maya. I remember her reaction to me even mentioning Mambo number 6. Far too drunk to be a functioning adult, but I'm sober enough to know that nothing good will come from me playing that song. The water in the bathroom's lukewarm and tastes off, but splashing it on my face centers me. I decide I'll leave the jukebox play Knock Off John Denver and leave the mystery of Mambo to another night. I stare into the mirror and promise myself I'll follow through. Looks like they'll be closing soon, she says, finishing off her beer. You want to go somewhere else? They have Mambo number 6 in the jukebox. The moment the words leave my lips, I drive my nails into my palms and bite the edge of my cheek. I regret every single shot of Zelina I took. All the lust and liquor leaves her eyes. She looks at me no different than the bartender or the waitress. Do not, under any circumstances, play Mambo number 6 on the jukebox. Perhaps my parents didn't discipline me enough, but perhaps they disciplined me too much. Either way, I find it difficult to not do something after being explicitly told not to. If I'm drunk, that difficult task becomes impossible. I'm sorry, I say as I take the 20-crown coin out of my pocket. She blocks my way. At first, she simply positions her body between me and the jukebox, but when I walk around her, she grabs my shoulder. Maya might be smarter than me, but she's not stronger. I wrestle free and lean up against the dashboard. As I struggle to fit the coin into the machine, she pleads with me once more. Please, she says. This is for your own good. That song is cursed. From behind the bar, I see the bartender smiling at me. When our eyes meet, he winks. Maya and me are the last patrons of the bar. Sorry, Maya, I said, as I slide the coin in the machine. I gotta. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize. It's time for Mambo number 6. Without a word, Maya turns on her heels and runs up the stairs. Before the bass line of the song starts, she's out of the pub. I'm alone with 2 grinning pub employees who watch me with devilish grins. The tune that comes from the jukebox is familiar, but the voice that accompanies it seems to have come from a wholly different world. It sounds tired, angry, and it pronounces each word of the consonant-filled lyrics with utter hatred. The names that Lucas Benga lists into the ether are not names of lovers, names of forbidden gods, or horrid cosmic entities, of things that the mortal mind can't comprehend. Though I don't understand the language with which Mambo No. 6 is performed, the foreign words brew a primordial fear within my stomach. The music coming from the jukebox is inherently evil, and Maya was right. As the song picks up in tempo, both the bartender and the waitress start to dance. They pump their arms in the air, hitting the light fixtures. They kick their legs to the side, overturning the chairs. They sing along to the incomprehensible lyrics with screaming zeal. They dance towards me, insisting I join their horrid ritual. Though I lack balance, I manage to ascend 3 steps up towards the surface. 3 steps, however, is as far as I got. As I reach the 4th, as I feel the gentle caress of the cold night air on my face, Louis Benga breaks the stream of raspy Slavic words with a single phrase I understand. The trumpets! On the back of his horrid performance, as if forged in the raw syllables of his words, comes a booming, dark sound which no instrument can make. My knees turn weak, and I come tumbling down towards the spinning fists of the bar staff. With what I momentarily believe is sheer luck, I manage to dodge the blows and squeeze myself into the door of the man's bathroom. I breathe a sigh of relief. For a mere second, I believe I'm safe. With my second breath, however, I realize I'm trapped. The ancient windowless room smells like piss. The once grumpy Czechs were beating down on the sole door with energetic frenzy and joyous screams. The only plastic toy turtles peeking out of the urinals stand witness to my nightmarish ensnarement. From the wall, the scratched-out words in worn stone taunt me. Mambo No. 6. Maya was right. Nothing good can come from that song being mentioned. When the horrid music winds down, so does the banging on the door. In my drunkenness, I lose all ability at pattern recognition for a moment, for a mere collection of seconds. I convince myself the song won't repeat. It repeats. Mambo No. 6 repeats, and as Lucas Benga wails his haunting song, the banging noise on the door resumes with renewed fervor. I feel far from well, yet when I hear the terrible call of the trumpets, I drop to my knees once more. There's a sharp pain in my chest. There's a sharp pain in my chest, and I regret starting off my evening with melted cheese. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we end tonight's story, I'm going to let you know a little bit more about tonight's author. You can hear more from Mike Jesus Langer on his podcast, Cabinet of Fever Dreams. Cabinet of Fever Dreams can be found on Spotify, and you can get that link to it in the description down below. It's a collection of all stories written over the past 3 years with new episodes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. A big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Stephanie Butler, Jordan Humble, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, William Wellington, Emma, Brenna, LaQueda Canizales, Smiley the Psychotic, Dante, Kinkade, SimbasBloodyMojo, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, Bastion Beefcake, M, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, Clownable, Amber Clark, Jay Kearns, Dakota Lane Whetstone, Himbo Jerry, Crusader Chocobo, Adamarius, Estebean, Nate Cull, Our Minsect Time, Xylobones, Angelus, Seclude, Salty Surprise, Levita Galvin, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Turtleman, Cryolinian, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchalk, Dirty Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Fikamel, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Sashi Suzaku, Brokenut 509, Stricket, Freddy Krueger, Lisa Cottrell, Hades Nephew, Acid System, Mog, Kiwi the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Nico Kyle, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. To all of you guys, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for being a huge support to me. Thank you to everybody who's in the description down below, and thank you to everyone who can even support $1 just on Patreon to help keep the content coming.